I've said this before, it's just like it's crazily in my DNA.
Yeah, you love it.
A suit.
Would you think of putting the suit back on again for Tony Stark?
I've become surprisingly open-minded to the idea. Probably the most like-me character, strangely, I've ever played, even though he's way cooler than I am.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Robert Downey Jr. was just talking about returning as Iron Man in the Marvel movies, and it's no coincidence this is happening right now after he spent all the last couple of years saying he did not want to come back. He didn't care. He wanted to do other types of non-Marvel movies, movies that were not based on traditional comic books. So what changed his mind so suddenly? Why is he talking about coming back now, of all times? Well, there's a couple important reasons, and most of you have probably figured this out. Because it's not too dissimilar with what happened with Hugh Jackman saying that he had been retired as Wolverine after the Logan movie, but then turning right around and coming back for Deadpool and Wolverine. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, we're doing that Deadpool and Wolverine ticket giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know what kind of character you want Robert Downey Jr. to play when he actually does come back, if he's not going to be playing his original version of Iron Man. But rewind to Avengers Endgame several years ago. That's how long it's been several years. Just this past year, new information was revealed about what was actually going down behind the scenes at Marvel when they were making Endgame. Apparently, Robert Downey Jr. went into that movie not wanting Marvel to kill off his character. Originally, one of their first ideas was to have Captain America be the one to snap the Infinity Gauntlet and sacrifice himself. According to the Russos and the writers and Kevin Feige, their reasoning for changing it to Iron Man, according to their own statement, is that they thought the twist for Captain America was too obvious, too easy, because he was always the character that was ready to throw himself on the bomb to protect everyone else. Too many people would go into the movie expecting him to do this. And it'd be a bigger twist in the theater, like a bigger surprise, oh crap moment to see Iron Man, most selfish person on the Avengers, be the one to throw himself on that bomb and snap his nano Infinity Gauntlet. Eventually, the Russos and Kevin Feige talked Robert Downey Jr. into the idea. So originally, you have to imagine that Iron Man was going to survive Endgame, and they would have just gone on and made Iron Man 4 with him like they would have any other sequel. Like they made Thor 4 Love and Thunder because Thor survived. They would have done the same thing for Iron Man. But eventually, the Russos and Kevin Feige talked Robert Downey Jr. into the idea of being the one to snap the Infinity Gauntlet. They kill him, and after the movie came out, he casually started talking about the end of his run at Marvel, the fact that the checks eventually stopped coming in, like, well, the checks are done, like, I guess I'm done too. He made a reported $75 million for Infinity War and another $75 million for Endgame. His famous back-end deal entitled him to a significant portion of the profits to any of the movies that they put him in. In both movies together, just those two movies earned many billions of dollars. So it is totally normal to hear any actor of any kind be reluctant to give up that kind of status he had inside Marvel because they treated him like a king. Like it wasn't just about the money, he was treated like a king on sets. Credit to Kevin Feige, he was always relatively happy with their financial arrangement. Like he didn't have any problem signing those checks for Robert Downey Jr. He loves him in real life too, like they're actually good friends. But here's the thing, heading into Marvel Phase 3, like go back to the events of Captain America Civil War, the Disney executives responsible for actually signing all those checks, like clearing all this, did not love Robert Downey Jr. earning super high paydays. So after Avengers Age of Ultron, it became harder and harder for Kevin Feige to convince Disney to sign off on him using Iron Man in bigger movies. Like it was actually relatively hard for him to convince Disney to let him use Iron Man in Captain America Civil War. But eventually they still let him do it. That is, until we get to Infinity War and Endgame. So Kevin Feige and Disney, in reality, were going to use those movies as a bookend for the original 6 Avengers. They've been very public about this. Like it was meant to be an ending of sorts for that original team of Avengers. That's why they had that ending of the movie with no particular post-credit scene. They were also planning to use the movie to transition to a new team of Avengers with newer characters and also characters that they had to pay less money to, because each of those other original Avengers earned at least $20 million per movie, Infinity War and Endgame. Robert Downey Jr. was a special case. That's why he earned so much more money than all the rest of them. If you don't remember, one of the original ideas that they had, Kevin Feige and the Russos for Endgame, was to kill off all of the original 6 Avengers. You can kind of see the wheels turning in their heads behind the scenes like, you know what, we're paying them too much, let's bring in some fresh blood. Because if everybody had survived for those original Avengers and they did Avengers 5 a few years later, they all came back and did it just like another Avengers movie, their salaries all would have gone way up. So at a certain point, like the longer you keep them around, the higher their salaries get, the more unprofitable the Avengers movies, just the Marvel movies in general, wind up being. So Disney really wants to find a way to stop using them in movies. All movie studios do this all the time. Best example also is Sony's excuse for getting rid of Tobey Maguire and recasting Rebooting with Andrew Garfield in The Amazing Spider-Man. At the time, they blamed Spider-Man 3 underperforming because the movie cost so much to make, his salary was getting so high by the time they would have made Spider-Man 4, so they just rebooted with a cheaper actor and just completely started fresh. And after Avengers Endgame, Robert Downey Jr.'s first big movie, and this is largely his own creative endeavor, was Dolittle. It was a huge flop, like first big non-Marvel Iron Man movie, time to show everybody that he can do movies that are successful that are not Marvel movies, and it winds up flopping big time. Even though Robert Downey Jr. is amazing, that movie is terrible. He said at the time he felt really down on himself, just felt like he'd forgotten how to act. So this is around 2020. He says he wants to challenge himself. The pandemic happens, then Marvel Phase 4 hits, Marvel Phase 5. They start to have a lot of their critical failures, cracks beginning to show at the seams. A lot of the stuff they were trying out, the new weirder, different things, were just not working out, especially their strategy for Disney+. There's a whole video we could get into about the problems they had with the Disney management and their mandate to shovel out a stream of TV shows and movies, so much so that they had problems managing quality control, so you wind up with stuff like Secret Invasion that almost makes no sense at all, and critically is probably the worst reviewed thing that they've released since Avengers Endgame has come out. So behind the scenes, Marvel pushes the emergency stop button and everyone starts talking about them bringing back the OG Avengers for Avengers 5 or Secret Wars, just to sort of freshen things up, get people to come back, turn around on Marvel movies. You wind up hearing about Deadpool 3 and then pouring all their energy into it because it seems like it's going to be such a banger. Like, okay, we're just going to rely on the biggest possible hits that we can right now to turn people around. Suddenly, that Joe Rogan prediction to Robert Downey Jr. right after Endgame turns out to be kind of prophetic.
Is the door to Iron Man totally closed? Because I don't believe it is.
Oh.
You guys can go through time now. You can go. You already opened up that door.
Well, let me ask you the question. If I pick the jersey back up and put it on, wouldn't you feel a little bit like, oh,
No.
crap?
No.
Oh.
Here's what I think.
All right.
They go through a few semi-lackluster Avengers movies without you. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Here's the scene. There's a moment where the world's fate is at stake and they realize they need a super genius. And then they figure out how to restart that time machine. But the way people would freak out if you came back, come on, man.
Now, Marvel isn't going to bring Robert Downey Jr. back the way Joe Rogan thought that they would. Like, it's not going to be some time travel excuse for bringing back the original Tony Stark who died during Avengers Endgame. He'll come back a completely different way as a different version of the character, but he's not too far off the mark here. But while Marvel is having all their problems around 2022, 2023, Robert Downey Jr. publicly disses them by saying that he doesn't care about going back to Marvel movies. He's fine doing regular movies, remembering how to be a real actor. Then the Oppenheimer movie comes out. We have our whole Barbenheimer event. He winds up winning all the major awards for his performance. The movie itself is amazing because it is Christopher Nolan. Of course, it's amazing. And he starts getting all this positive attention and recognition, respect, more importantly, from Hollywood again and all of his peers. So really, it's after that moment that he decides he'd like to return to Marvel for more movies eventually. Like, he's totally fine coming back. Because he got the thing he thought that he'd lost, respect as an actor. Like, he'd actually reminded himself, oh, I do know how to do this. I'm an actual good actor. I can do whatever I want to do. So in this clip I put at the beginning of this, when he said he's cool to come back, what's really going on here is essentially he's telling Kevin Feige, the Disney people who have to sign those checks to get him to come back, that he's ready to talk. He can actually make a deal with them now. Kevin Feige can start planning his role and how his return will go down. And the other important part here, no coincidence that he's saying this right now, particularly like this date, because a while ago, Marvel started to tell all the major actors and their agents to clear their schedules for the filming of Avengers 5. Now here's the thing, Robert Downey Jr. is not going to be in Avengers 5. I just did a whole separate video about how Marvel changed the plot of that movie the past year. It's going to be a more grounded movie set in the main MCU. Mostly, there'll be some Kang-related multiverse stuff. They have to tie up that storyline. But their original plans for how Avengers 5 was going to be Kang Dynasty, all that stuff changed behind the scenes. What they'd bring Robert Downey Jr. back for is Avengers Secret Wars as another version of Tony Stark from a different universe, because Secret Wars is their last big real ending multiverse movie, like they're ending the multiverse saga. So just in general, that movie is going to be bringing back a bunch of different classic X-Men, Fox Marvel actors, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine coming back for that too. And it'll be a version of Tony Stark from another universe, probably with a wildly different backstory, giving him a reason to come back like a fresh take on the Tony Stark character, not just rehashing the old version that he used to play. This also gets back to the same reason why Hugh Jackman came back as Wolverine. He didn't come back as the version that died during Logan, like he didn't want to trample on the ending of that movie. His version is a completely different version from another universe. Now the big question is which version of Tony Stark comes back in Secret Wars? Is he a version that's not Iron Man, that's some other kind of hero? Is he an evil version of Tony Stark? My guess is probably not. It'd be a cool twist to see him as a version of Superior Iron Man, but I think if they did Superior Iron Man, it'd be like a completely different actor. There was that deleted scene during Avengers Infinity War. They filmed a scene where essentially he took the Cloak of Levitation. It was meant to be an Easter egg for Sorcerer Supreme, Tony Stark, from the comics. And while that was happening, he gave all of his Iron Man nanites to Doctor Strange, and they called him the Iron Mage. That's why you saw those behind-the-scenes images of Benedict Cumberbatch walking around on set on the ship with the Iron Man rig that they usually use to film all the Iron Man scenes. Everybody let me know in the comments. He comes back. Which version of Tony Stark do you want him to be when he comes back? Right now, Avengers 5 is still scheduled to come out in 2026. We'll see if that date winds up holding. Secret Wars would be a year or two after that. But there's a bunch of big stuff coming up. My Acolyte episodes will start posting after this. And then we have The Boys Season 4, House of the Dragon Season 2 episodes. There's so much stuff happening. Also, huge news flash. Apparently, Tom Hardy revealed that there is a Spider-Man that Sony has in its Sonyverse that is not Tom Holland. So I'll do a video about that later this week, too. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for my brand new Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer video. And click here to learn how Marvel just changed Avengers 5. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.